Okay, one more hand to discuss from this session, and this hand is one of the most epic hands of the vlog. That is some buildup, I'm sure. So the under the gun player kicks it off right away, makes it $30 to go. The under the gun plus one player puts in a 3-bet, makes it $130 to go. Some action right off the bat in the first two positions. Folds over to the small blind who puts in a 4-bet. He makes it $380 to go. Folds over to us in the big blind, and we look down at pocket aces once again, facing a 4-bet before it has even reached us. Super interesting spot because the small blind, very good player, has about 1,500, maybe 14 or 1,500 effective. The under the gun player has maybe 2,000 or 2,500. The under the gun plus one player has maybe $3,500 total. So obviously it's a decision between putting in a 5-bet, the cold 5-bet out of the big blind. How often does that happen? Putting in that 5-bet or flatting for that ultimate deception with the pocket aces in the big blind. Since the big blind has 1.5K and there's some pretty big stacks on my left in the under the gun positions, I decide on the flat call because I feel like it just looks super strong. Putting in that 5-bet with the big stacks on my left, have to be somewhat concerned normally putting in that 5-bet and facing those deep stacks on my left. I also have a pretty deep stack, somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,500 as well. I think I might cover the biggest stack, not sure, but pretty close. So I decide on the flat call. The aforementioned reason is one reason, and the other reason is that since so much action came from under the gun and then the under the gun plus one, there has to be some non-zero chance that the under the gun plus one player is going to put in the 5-bet himself. He's got to be weighted pretty strong to be putting in a 3-bet from that early of a position. No idea if all of those reasonings are optimal. It's not too often that you find yourself in a 5-bet or flat spot in the big blind before the action has even gotten to you. Obviously a super interesting spot that doesn't happen too often. So anyway, I decide on the flat call. The under the gun player folds. The under the gun plus one player does not fold, does not call, puts in the 5-bet. He makes it $1,250 to go. The small blind folds. So now it's down to me and the under the gun plus one player facing a 5-bet with pocket aces in the big blind, facing a raise of $1,250, and the player has approximately $2,000 behind. Now what? How often has this situation come up? Facing a raise of over 100 big blinds. So at this point, it seems like my decision is almost totally clear. You could make a case for flatting to keep the deception factor alive and well, but I gotta think, facing a 5-bet for $1,250 pre-flop, my opponent likes his hand. I decide to go with the jam. I stick it all in there. My opponent does not snap call, which is good news because we are not chopping in this situation. He does not have the other two aces. So he's going into the tank and asks how much it is. Like I said, he has another $2,000 or so behind. My opponent thinks for quite some time, and then he decides on a fold, and he folds pocket kings face up. Amazing. Amazing. Just amazing situation here. Crazy hand, epic hand. He finds the fold with pocket kings. So it's a good news, somewhat bad news situation. Obviously, we want to get all in there for the maximum. It's tough to complain about winning $1,500 pre-flop without any risk. We win 100% of that $1,500, but facing pocket kings, we're an 80% favorite or so. And for $3,500 total, 80% of $3,500 is more than $1,500. So I would still prefer to have gotten it all in there. I would prefer my opponent didn't make the hero fold, but he did it. He somehow found a fold after raising to $1,250 pre-flop. So kudos to him for somehow finding the fold there with pocket kings and getting away from it in the end. Can't complain. Cannot complain about winning $1,500 unchallenged and no risk with no community cards to crack the aces. So yeah, epic hands, and turns out to be a really good session for us. We get into the game for $1,700. We get out of the game for $5,880 for a profit of $4,180. Pretty good session there at the Bellagio 510. One of our biggest winning sessions in the vlog thus far.